All right, we're going to get going. Thanks for joining us. This webinar is being recorded. So if we zip through a slide that has something on there that you don't quite catch or don't have an opportunity to ask a question about, it will be shared out in the ASD news, and the webinar itself will be shared out on ASD's YouTube channel. So totally accessible after We're joining the librarians to talk a bit about summer reading, something we feel strongly about, not just in the summer, obviously, but that's where we are. So we're glad you're here and hope it's useful for you.
So first of all, welcome and a few introductions. My name is Julie. I'm the elementary librarian. We also have Jason, the middle school librarian, and Jenny, who's the high school librarian. Beyond the three of us, though, there's a whole team that helps the library run and get those books and resources into your students' hands. And so I also wanted to make sure to highlight our lovely assistants and some pictures of this year down below. So please know that we're all here to help you and your families with summer reading and reading in general. So Jenny, if you could keep it moving.
Unmute. There we go. Welcome. And just a note about the foundation of the library's program. You'll see this slide includes ASD's mission and the core values. And the libraries have a mission as well. And it's all founded on the core values and the mission of the school to inspire and guide learners on their personal learning pathways. And one way to do that is for students to read and learn about the world, learn about themselves, and expand their horizons through all kinds of reading.
So here we see one of our elementary students leaving this space, and I thought it was a good photo as we start talking about summer reading, because it's really important to remember that we're all lifelong readers and we continue that journey throughout the summer, but throughout our lives. And we don't always read Shakespeare. I know I don't read that on the beach, but maybe some of you do, but it's always great to explore audiobooks, ebooks, all types of reading. And we're going to start talking more about resources later on. But we all love to be read to, and audiobooks and apps are out there for adult listening. So please encourage and read to each other. I think it's Jason, you're next.
Yep. So summer is for reading, and it's for a lot of other things too. And it is certainly our hope on your behalf and on our own behalf as well, that this summer gives us a bit more flexibility and opportunity than last summer did in terms of travel and seeing family and spending time doing some things that are important to us as people and as families. But this is our chance to make the case for reading being one of those things as well. All of us, Jenny and Julie and myself, have been librarians at several different schools, and we've been classroom teachers of various ages of kids at several different schools. And one of the things that's always evident to us is how much students' reading impacts all of their success, academically and in many cases personally as well. So it does, reading matters for everything. And sometimes when you talk to a struggling reader, they even point that out to you, that it seems that I've had students say to me that it seems unfair. I'm really good at maths, for example, but the reading is getting in the way. And you know, as an advocate for kids, you help them work around that. But at the same time, you're saying in your head, yeah, of course it does. Reading matters for everything that we do. And reading is probably reading a fair bit, reading independently, reading successfully is probably one of the strongest correlations to success in school. So we plug it again and again. And as librarians, we obviously support kids in the reading that they do for academic purposes, reading to learn, as well as, especially with our younger kids, learning to read, but also reading to know you're not alone, reading to escape, reading to celebrate, reading to visit new worlds. So we're going to talk about reading resources, as Julie mentioned, and ways to connect kids to books over the course of the summer. But as I've been talking to middle school kids over the last couple of weeks and sharing with them some of the resources that we'll show you in a bit, I've told them that reading over the summer is not meant to replace going to the beach or playing with your cousins or travel or biking or napping or anything else. It's meant to be a part of the summer. And we would encourage you as a family to be part of that as well. Reading together, listening to audiobooks together is a really cool thing to do over the course of the summer. And it provides a great example and is just a fantastic model for kids. The next slide is a short piece of visual data to make my point here. That is just a screenshot. Many of you probably recognize that as a piece of a map test report. ASD administers the map tests to kids in the fall and in the spring. And the pattern that you see there on that quick screenshot is a fall, spring, fall sequence of map tests. And some version of a pattern like that is evident in 40 to 50% of our kids. The downward trend between the second and the third score there is summer. And again, something that I said to the kids over the course of the last couple of weeks is that summer stretches on for 10 or 11 weeks. And no matter what it is that you're talking about, whether it's reading or training for any kind of athletics, running or swimming or weightlifting or dance or a musical instrument or even gaming, if you do none of it for 10 or 11 weeks, your skills decline. And that's been really well documented through dozens and dozens of research projects from the 1970s onward. And interestingly, somebody thought about 10 years ago of enlisting parents of kids who were involved in one of these surveys. And they found the same pattern in parents as well, because makes sense. Parents' reading habits often change over the summer too. They may do less. They may be less attached to their reading lives. So all the more case for you to do some reading, model some reading, read together with your kids, take a suggestion from them, and make some time for consistent reading over the course of the summer.
Let's see, there we are. So one way to get into that reading habit and access the different materials is, of course, visiting libraries. The school library is not accessible over the summer, sadly, but many of us go home or go to visit a place that might feel like home, or visiting other people where there's a public library. And they, of course, offer a myriad of free materials for everyone from infants through adulthood, including programming and other activities to draw people in. And they will have print reading, they'll have audiobooks, and they're a great place to see what is out there and try something new. And the great thing is that there's no commitment there. I can borrow a book, try it out. If it doesn't suit me, I take it back. I don't feel like I've made a large outlay of cash or time and effort, and then someone else can use it. It's the ultimate recycling as well. So we really encourage families to go to the public library and go together as a family, as Jason mentioned. When children see their parents also perusing books and selecting items, whether it's a nonfiction, cooking book, or fashion or whatever, or fixing your car, and then the kids are going to be a lot more motivated to select books in their area of preference, right? Also reading in English as well as reading in the mother tongue. If there's a family, if your family speaks and reads in other languages, exercising that as well, that helps light up all different parts of your brain and make connections between thinking and reading. So definitely avail of that if that is something that you would like to instill in your kids, reading aloud to them. If you're a reader in a mother tongue and maybe they're speaking and listening is very strong, but their reading isn't as strong. That's another way to encourage and keep that connection to language and culture as well. What kind of reading? I've talked to my 9th graders about this week, and all reading is good reading, whether it is a graphic novel, a magazine, newspaper, book that a child has read before. One thing that's really comforting is to reread a favorite book and know how the story is going to go, and know that I can accomplish this, that it's not going to be especially difficult, but I'm still having a consistent reading habit and diving into the language and the language structure. Kids who read develop stronger vocabularies, better understanding of sentence structure, and become better writers and readers as well. So any reading is good reading. We're not going to tell people that they have to read at a certain grade level over the summer and push that kind of thing. It's really important that kids have that choice and voice in what they select to read, and read together as a family. One great way to do that, as Jason mentioned, is to listen to audiobooks while on a trip, or even sitting around the house relaxing. And maybe you've got music playing, or maybe you've got an audiobook playing. And listening to books still counts as reading. I'm still making pictures in my head. I'm still discerning what the meanings are and what the author's trying to tell me. So all kinds of reading from all kinds of sources. And I will put in a quick plug for used bookstores. They, again, are a great way to recycle books, purchase books at a low cost, and they often have really interesting, quirky items that might not be readily available. Someone's unloaded their personal library in the bookstore, and you can find some really fantastic old favorites from your childhood, and then you sell them back. And once again, they're not weighing you down. You don't feel like you have to own them forever.
Okay, so speaking of plugs, and that was a great one, Jenny, I have to, before I dive into summer reading stuff, I also have to highlight the Connect page and the elementary library resources. I've taken a screenshot of it so you can find your way, because there's a lot of different pathways in there. So going up to the ES tab and then clicking on electronic resources will bring up lots of databases, links, and Jenny, if you could just go ahead. All of these resources that you have access to, as long as you're logged into your ASD Gmail account. And if you're struggling, you can see underneath each description a screencast, as well as some resources for you to navigate through that. There is also ebooks and audiobooks on our library catalog, which I will highlight and talk through in just a minute. So please make use of those. You are, parents, encouraged to use them as well. And helping guide your students through that is a great learning process. Jenny, next slide. Thank you. So I've pulled this acronym READ from a previous Talk Tuesday hosted by Lori Fisher, an elementary literacy coach, and Sherry LaJoy, the head of languages. And this comes from the Pearls website and some real clear data on reading and how you encourage lifelong readers. And ritual, it's a time where you build in your day or in your routine to show and model, as Jason and Jenny have already spoken about, that you do this every day, you read every day. And you as parents are such a strong advocate and a model to show your children how important reading is in your life. Environment speaks to the fact that you can read anywhere at any time, and show that literacy is valued in your space, whether that's a traveling space, whether it's home with family in public libraries, whether it's here in Dubai with a library, an adult library or student library in your house. It's really important to make sure that you show in the space that you're in that reading has a place. And if that's online or digital, if it's screen time, if it's ebooks or audiobooks, also showing your children that there's a difference between engaged time with reading online and digital consumption, and that could be watching videos or playing games. There is a difference there. And again, you are the best teacher to show your children the difference between those two. With access, read anything, read everything, as Jenny and Jason have been saying as well. There's a theme running through here, and whether that's menus at restaurants, whether that's maps or Google Maps that you read together, whether that's subtitles on a movie, whether it's recipes and cookbooks, all of that is reading, and it's so very important to build, especially in the summer. And lastly, for the D for dialogue, conversations matter. And talking about a book and sharing your experiences with your children is essential. And it's also a pathway to having conversations with perhaps teenage readers. I mean, it might be hard to strike up a conversation when they're in middle school or high school. So sharing a book that you enjoy, or asking your son or daughter, what are you reading and what do you like about it, is a great way to dig deeper into text and also teach your children a little bit more about what you value in those books and those lessons you see in those books. Next slide. To help you in your pathway in summer reading, I've put together an infographic that is linked here, as well as in other places. Students in upper grades have seen it in their last library class. And in here, there's lots of recommended resources, podcasts, awarded books, public library links to challenges if you feel that you as a family want to do a challenge. But this summer, there is not your typical elementary summer reading challenge. Instead, it is just encouraging you and your family to read and using some of these resources and links to help guide you. So that will be made available throughout. Please look for it forthcoming and continue to build a ritualistic environment with access and dialogue. So reading. And I'm good.
In the secondary school, the middle school and the high school, we have made a big shift in our ebook offering, which is a significant portion of our digital offerings over the last 6 months or so. The last 18 months or so have proven the point that we need to ensure multiple avenues of access to quality reading. Both our elementary library and our secondary library have fabulous print collections. And I think in all the surveys that we do, kids from the very youngest on through high school, on balance, prefer print for most of their reading. There certainly are exceptions. There are kids that are drawn to digital reading, but whatever we prefer, redundancy and access to good reading is important. And so we've made a shift to integrate Sora by Overdrive into our Google app ecosystem. And we worked hard to make sure that it was integrated well and super easy for kids to access. And in grades 6 through 9, over the last couple of weeks, we've been rolling that out. Some of them got to be guinea pigs and beta testers earlier on, especially some of my advisory kids, but it's been rolled out more wholesale, and the older kids will get some explicit screencasts about how to get to the resource and use it. But it's terrific. It is the same reading app that many public libraries use around, particularly in the UK and in Canada and in the US. So Jenny was talking about the value of public libraries. That's true for their print collection. It's also true for their digital collection. And on the next slide in a moment, I'll show you, there it is. So 3 quick screenshots there. The one on the left circled is the Sora app. And what that demonstrates is that you can see I'm logged in up there. It's a screenshot of my account. So if your student is logged in to their ASD Google account, it's as simple as using that 3x3 Google Apps waffle, clicking on it, and typically down at the bottom, they'll find the Sora app. And by tapping on it, all they should need to do then is sign in with American School of Dubai and probably ask them to choose their ASD Gmail account if they've got multiple accounts on their laptop. And they're in. And the middle screenshot is just a sort of browsing view, and it's quite easy in Sora to click on fantasy or science or any other subject or subgenre and scroll through. You can see that there's some titles with headphones. Those are audiobooks. The majority of the titles, the majority of the 800 plus are high demand fiction titles for middle and high school students. The elementary ebook collection, as Julie mentioned, is built into the catalog and accessible that way. So these are more secondary targeted. They definitely are the titles that were moving a bunch this year, and we were delivering books all year to classes, to advisory classes and ELA classes. And a lot of these titles are the ones that kids were clamoring for. So lots of good ones. And the reading interface, which I don't have a screencast of, but the kids got to work with and play around with over the last couple of weeks, is really intuitive and really easy. It's very nice. And then over on the right, simply by tapping on the profile button, adding a library is as simple as clicking add a library and searching for a library name. I was in Mr. Hendershot's class yesterday, and he belongs to the Denver Public Library. So I typed in Denver Public, clicked add, and I added the Denver Public Library's collection. I would need to drop into that library and ask for their setup code or their password and join the library if I wasn't a member. But as Jenny said, librarians are very keen to have people use their collections, and very accommodating to people who, both residents and people who are visiting. So I would definitely echo Jenny's suggestion that you take advantage of all the resources that public libraries have to offer, including their digital access. And then you can click back and forth and add a variety of libraries there. So we're really, really pleased about this and look forward to making good use of it over the summer and looking at the statistics and adding to it, expanding it through into the elementary, and building out the collection next year and beyond.
Another library you can add to your Sora app once you've gotten that set up is called Sync Audio. The web page or the interface is called Audiobook Sync. And this is a really amazing service that's offered every summer, starting in May through the end of July, 2 free audiobooks every week. There is a list of what's on offer, sort of like a menu, another fun thing to read through with your teen. These audiobooks are geared towards minimum 7th and 8th grade through high school and adult. They're paired. The really interesting thing is they're paired every week, a fiction and nonfiction book on a topic such as immigration, such as magic, or growing up, a Bildungsroman type book. And it's completely free. So the first step would be to go to Sync Audio, and we will again have this slideshow available in the ASD News to have some clickable links to help you out with that. You register with your email address. They ask for no other information, not where you live, nothing. Then you'll go into, I'm just going to go back real quick, into your Sora, add a library, and the library you add is called Audiobook Sync. And then you'll also have access to those audiobooks digitally. And when you select them, you check them out actually for 100 years. So you more or less own them. You can download them to your device, your phone, or your tablet, or your laptop, if that's what you're keen to do. But it's really geared towards the app. It's geared towards a handheld device. Then after you listen, you just return it, and it's off your device, no longer taking up space. And the cool thing is they're not just available that week. You have it for 10 years, 100 years. So the next week you can add the 2 more without losing the ones that you've selected. It's a really awesome opportunity for our students to listen to audiobooks, and they're pretty high, they're high quality, very well-known authors. And I always enjoy listening to them in the summer when I go hiking and walk my dog. So it's just another way to read. Again, all reading is good reading. I hope you've heard that enough. And another great resource that's available to our older readers.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned when talking about Sora, and Jenny just reminded me that kids can read. When we rolled them out to the kids in class, we had them use their laptop, obviously, because that was a quick way to access their Google account. But there's an app for Android, an app for iOS, and that can be downloaded onto a phone or a tablet. And then all the features that I talked about with respect to the ASD collection accessed through Sora, all the things that Jenny just talked about with respect to Sora, respect to a Sync audio access through Sora or another library, are right there as well. And the app is really actually well put together. Overdrive did a good job with it. Simple, not overly cluttered with controls, really good. So there is the question that kids often ask, what should I read next? And during the school year, that's one of our favorite questions as librarians, because it's an opportunity to talk with them about what they're reading and what they like and what they've recently read. And sometimes they know they want princess books or, Skippy John Jones books or particular series. Sometimes they've just finished Keeper of the Lost Cities, all 8.5 books, and what's next? And you have those conversations with them, and it's great. And that's always a good thing for us in August and September as well, to find out what kids have been reading over the summer. And we learn about some new titles too. When we're away, when they can't drop into the library, and that's been the case actually, sadly, a lot this year, they've been limited to class visits, not independent visits. So we've been pushing a lot of tools out. Three of our favorites there: Goodreads, the Tourist Map of Literature, and What Should I Read Next? Those are all live links that are fun discovery tools for kids that will give them loads and loads of clickable options to just figure out what's a read alike for something that I liked or an author that I liked. And then down at the bottom are some of our go-to summer reading lists. From the American Library Association. That one's middle school specific. Almost all the rest there are collected lists. So ranging from picture books on up to books for adults and everything in between. So they're quite representative. School Library Journal and the Horn Book are professional journals for librarians, tons and tons of reviews. So they're terrific resources. The New York Public Library makes a big summer reading push every year as well. And Goodreads is a terrific site also for discovery. So those are good tools for kids to use. But of course, going into a library or a bookshop, used bookshop, and browsing shelves is some kids' favorite way to find things too. And so we encourage that also.
And just to follow up with a few more links, in case you are just wanting some resources to back you up with the read and how to help your child become a lifelong reader, because that's the goal. If we choose to be a lifelong reader, then we never stop learning, we never stop thinking, and we've always got something to do. And so there's a link to that screencast, the video of the Talk Tuesday from February from Lori Fisher and Sari LaJoy that Julie mentioned earlier. Also a link to the Pearls summary and the READ acronym that Julie mentioned. So you can, if you're interested in digging more deeply into that. The ES summer reading infographic, a quick start guide that was linked shown in a small graphic earlier in the presentation. There's a link to that, as well as how to get into Sora app, whether you are using iOS or Android-based devices, and the What Should I Read Next page on the secondary libraries Connect page. Julie mentioned earlier using the library's Connect pages to access all different kinds of resources. And both libraries, middle school, high school, also known as secondary library, and elementary library, both have Connect pages with a wealth of information. So this again will be linked in the ASD news, and we will also throw in a quick video on how to use the Sora app on your handheld device to kind of walk along with that quick start guide to help you out. And if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to the library team or use the Q&A that's in this presentation and reach out now.
So thank you all for attending. And if you have any questions, the Q&A is down below at the bottom of your screen. And Anissa's already asked, where can we get this link? And I just want to make sure that you all hear this as well. It will be published in the ASD's YouTube channel, as well as in the ASD News and this presentation as well. Does anybody else have any questions that you would like to ask? Jason,
I can answer. We have a question about Overdrive integration on the Kindle. Actually, that's something, to be perfectly honest, that's something I haven't tested yet. We had an interesting struggle January through March, making all of the integration and authentication work, because ASD takes security and privacy and data security very, very seriously. So there was a whole bunch of workarounds we had to do. That wouldn't be something, the integration or the use of Sora on the Kindle wouldn't be something that we as a school could turn off or on. If it's accessible and if it's downloadable onto the Kindle, then I would absolutely say go ahead and give it a go. And you should be able to log in the same way and authenticate with your ASD Google account. The kids can. And at this point, it actually will have to be the kids who are using the Sora app. We may at some point in the future investigate an additional investment in opening it to parents and building out the collection for the community in that way. But at the moment, they're authenticating the kids through their ASD email account, which has their graduation year as a suffix as part of it. So that's how they'll be there. But I would say absolutely give it a go on a Kindle. See if you can download the Sora app for that.
Last call, any questions? Okay. I think we have answered all questions. What do you think, Jenny? Jason, are we good?
Yep, I think we're good. Thank you all very much for attending. And if you're watching this later, thanks for watching. And we hope you have a great summer of reading, modeling reading as a family, supporting your children in their reading. Just enjoy the reading, enjoy the discussions that go along with it, read out loud to each other, and just have a great summer.
Indeed. Safe journeys, and we look forward to seeing everyone back in August.